On 106 to 108 FM. On the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speakers. This is News Talk.
It's 7 o'clock. This is Eamon Falvey. Good evening. The Guards are to investigate allegations a member of GSOC attended a party for Jerry Hutch. The Justice Minister, Simon Harris, has received a report on the issue and has referred it to Gardaí to establish if any concerns of a criminal nature arise. The Minister believes this is the appropriate action to ensure public confidence is maintained in GSOC. The inquiry has been conducted by the Garda National Bureau of Criminal Investigation. A young man is beginning a 9-year prison sentence this evening for killing a 23-year-old father of one in a nightclub in Clare 5 years ago. Nathan O'Neill from Duradoyle in Limerick stabbed Jamie Higgins 5 times in an incident that lasted less than 20 seconds. Here's our courts correspondent Frank Graney.
Jamie Higgins' mother delivered a very emotional victim impact statement at Nathan O'Neill's sentence hearing last month. She told the court she didn't know how to live or cope with the grief of losing her son, whom she described as a beautiful person with a very big heart. At the time of his death, Jamie had a 13-month-old baby boy, and his partner told the court he was loving being a father for the first time. After getting into a fight with him in the Shannonites nightclub, O'Neill pulled out a knife and stabbed Jamie 5 times. After the 2 young men clashed earlier in the night, his trial heard he left the club and returned an hour later with the blade. He also stabbed Jamie's friend. He then ran from the club, and after being chased by security staff and Gardaí, he was found hiding under a bush a short distance away. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison today for Jamie's manslaughter, but the final 12 months of that sentence were suspended. Frank Graney at the Central Criminal Court.
Efforts will continue to evacuate Irish citizens and their family members from Sudan. The Department of Foreign Affairs has confirmed a total of 50 people have been evacuated from Khartoum to Djibouti since yesterday with the support of France and Spain. A dozen members of the Defence Forces are assisting Irish people there to leave the country. The independent TD and former Army Ranger Cathal Berry outlined what duties the deployed troops would have to undertake.
There'll be a paramedic with the team, so from a medical perspective they'll be providing medical support. Also from a communications point of view, obviously there's a lot of eavesdropping going on internationally, so there's encrypted means of communication back to Dublin. The last one is the most important, that's the intervention role. So there'll be small teams that could pair up with a foreign helicopter or a foreign aircraft and actually cross the border into Sudan and link up with some Irish civilians on the ground.
And that's your news update at 7:02.
News Talk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Family staycation in the rain? No thanks. Treat them to summer sun in Alicante, Faro or Malaga.
Becoming mostly dry with scattered showers dying out this evening and early tonight, turning cold with temperatures of -2 to +2 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
This is News Talk.
Now you're welcome along. Monday evening's Off the Ball is coming at you. We are going to talk hurling with Jamesy O'Connor. Opening round of the championship did not throw up any major shocks or surprises, but there was lots to talk about nonetheless, so we'll do that at 7:30. Damien Delaney on the football show, amongst other issues to be addressed. Tottenham Hotspur are a thundering disgrace. There is no other word for it. They are just the worst. And then Monday Night Rugby, Jerry Thornley and Fiona Hayes will look back on the weekend that was and also look ahead to what very well could be game of the season between Leinster and Toulouse in Dublin this Saturday. 53106 the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack joins us remotely. Richie, hello.
I am very remote, Joe. How are you?
Good. And Michael McCarthy, less remote, intimately here in studio.
I'm not even remotely remote.
No. A hell of a lot going on. So Spurs, a disgrace. We don't need to debate that, I suppose. That's just chalk it up.
I am enjoying that they've become such a disgrace now that even old straight-laced Joe doesn't want to offer those hot takey opinions. You know, even you're willing to go all the way.
Yeah.
Disgraceful.
They are.
And look, I mean, Spursy is a nice word that's been used over the years. Like, I saw
beyond that now.
I saw there's like these predictors that you can do for the rest of the season, you know, and where everybody's going to end up. But I saw a few where like Spurs were like barely have any more points than they have now. And this was before the Newcastle game, and I was thinking, this is ridiculous. Like, you can't just write off a team. They're going to pick up wins. And then, like, honestly, I was watching Waterford Limerick and Waterford were kind of struggling at the time. It was before they got back into it, and I just kind of like automatically sort of went to the phone to like go onto Twitter, but before I did, just check the score app to see what was going on, and it took me 3-4 minutes to really figure out what I was looking at here. I was like, did that match start early? Is there something, what's going on here? And it's just like, but you kind of said, yeah, you know, if it was going to happen to anyone, it's Tottenham Hotspur, isn't it? Like,
really, really down tools.
It's really disgraceful. Do you know what? You use a perfect word for it, because there is no way that turmoil of management should mean that a team with Harry Kane, Son, like all the players that they have, like really, really good players, even with the injuries that they have, are able to just like be 5-0 down in 21 minutes to a team that were hammered last week. It's really poor.
I think Newcastle are better than there was a good point made in commentary. I think Jim Beglin said it yesterday in the kind of game I was watching, saying that they've a good enough credit in the bank, Newcastle, to know that a bad result is just a bad day, and they've done well enough to know that they are better than that performance, and they put that behind them fairly quickly. Spurs opting to go with a back four for the first time in, I think it was over a year, for yesterday's game. It was a clear mistake, especially when I think 3 of them essentially are only really defenders, or maybe one of the 4 is only defenders, 3 of them aren't, and Perisic on the left definitely isn't. But they're not children at the same time either. So there's a definite malaise at Spurs whereby the absolute top line for them is to qualify for the Champions League. So as soon as they do that, Daniel Levy's happy to move on. So there's never a sense that there's any real drama, there's any real jeopardy, any real stakes on the line for Spurs. Once they get to a certain achievable level, then they're okay. And beyond that, like if that fails them, they fritz. They don't know what to do. And
we will talk to Damien Delaney on the football show.
I'd question Spurs' level, though, I have to say. Sorry, I thought you were moving on, but I would question Spurs' just self-entitled place at that top table, because Newcastle are coming in, they're taking over their spot in the top 6. So Spurs don't have endless amount of money in the way that Man City or Newcastle do. I don't think they're naturally as big a club as Arsenal, Manchester United or Liverpool. So where do they sit there? Because you look at like Newcastle taking them over, say Aston Villa have a fair amount of money. If they get their act together or keep their act together, they're rivaling Spurs. Spurs is like, we'll just get in the Champions League 2 out of every 3 seasons. You know, Harry Kane is gone. They need another kind of linchpin standard bearer after that. There's a huge chance that Spurs just fall off and go back to what they were in the 90s.
Yeah, Harry Kane's entering the final year of his contract as well, so that's another issue for them to contend with. Is any referee, wonders Frank, in Waterford going to be brave enough to challenge Limerick on their persistent foul play? I presume Frank is thinking of the Seamus Flanagan incident. Any referee's entitled to miss one moment. I think we'd all agree it's most likely a red card. Frank is talking about persistent foul play. Would you agree with that?
I think Limerick how do I say this? I think they play on the edge, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think the Seamus Flanagan thing was a red card. I think that's very hard to criticise the referee for. I didn't see it live. I saw it on the second replay. I thought initially that it was a free. I was 3 incidences away as to why I thought that was a free in the first place. You know, you see those things on replays, they miss them. I don't think a referee's seeing that and not sending him off, or like he didn't address it. The overall stuff, like, I don't know, Hegarty was a straightforward second yellow, and he got the straightforward second yellow. Barry Nash probably could have got a second yellow card, but I didn't think any of them were like end of the world incidents. Limerick play to what they can get away with. I've seen them. I've stood behind the terrace watching them in championship games, and there's little tricks, little things that they're up to. It's not necessarily a referee not having the courage to challenge them. I think it's referees missing them because they know what they're doing and they're very good at it.
I would agree with that. There's nothing really out of the ordinary in terms of Limerick's relationship with referees. John Kiley spoke after their win against Waterford. It was in the end just a 2-point win. They were up by 4 points at half time. They pulled away 6 points clear at one stage in the second half, but then down to 14 men, and Waterford decided to have a real go, and they did. It finished up a 2-point win. So if you have kids in the car, just flick off for one brief moment. I'll give you what John Kiley had to say after the game. You would think he would have been sated, happy. John Kiley's not happy. He's angry, Tony, and he's been angry for a few weeks now, and I'll tell you why. Kiley, after the win, this is beautiful. I mean, this is making a siege mentality when there's
No need for one.
not much to be found to get the siege going. But John Colley says, let's be honest about it. There was some amount of bullshit spoken about our team this season ahead of this week and the week before. He says, it's a softening up exercise mentally from those outside of our camp. But we're around a long time. We know that's nonsense.
It's such paranoia, like, isn't it?
Are you sure people aren't just saying your team's really good because they're really good?
Having these conversations where people we're talking blind before a season into like what's going to happen. All the evidence there is that Limerick are better than everybody else. But like, I don't mind if he says it's bullshit and it's not right. Look at the evidence of today. But it's the idea that it's this like like moustache twirling from all of the other counties out there to try and like take Limerick down.
No, it is. See, you weren't there. I just remember now. Me and Rich were there. You weren't at the most recent media gathering where we set the agendas.
Yeah. Was I out sick that day?
Yeah, sorry. No. The hammer was knocked on the table. It was agreed that we would soften up Limerick. Did you miss that agenda?
We're softening up Limerick. We're permanently on the side of Stephen Kenny. And what was the other bit, Joe? I forget the third meaning.
Munster are terrible.
Oh, we definitely.
Munster are terrible. There we go.
A softening up exercise. I mean, look, it's great, and I think if you were to talk to Kylie privately, he'd be like, "Yeah, obviously, I know I'm talking guff there, but like, we got to cling to something."
Look, why not? Like, I mean, I'd say they got a fright yesterday. Personally, I thought that they were. I felt like they were in control. I suppose the last 5 minutes probably lies that a little bit, but I thought that Limerick were always going to get over the line. And you do forget that they played most of the second half with 14 men.
Yeah.
So it's always these qualifiers that people don't, when we talk about Limerick, it's like we talk, all the games were close last year. The Munster final, the semi-final against Galway, the final against Kilkenny were all close. It's like, yeah, but they didn't have Cian Lynch for any of those games. He is the most important player on that team. That they won it at all is an incredible achievement and shows how far ahead they are of the pack. Yesterday, they were down to 14 men for most of the game against a team that were well up for it, well organised. There was some, they good analysis from Shane Dowling on the Sunday game last night as to how Waterford really took a lot of possession options away from Waterford, or from Limerick, sorry. So but yet they've still felt like they had enough, so maybe they're not going to go out and win every game by 20 points, but I actually don't think yesterday took away from the idea that Limerick it was theirs to lose anyway,
I mean, generally people have made points like their squad this year is stronger than in any other year of Kylie's tenure. They've said that they look odds on to win the All-Ireland again. There's nobody really coming at them in the way that Tipperary were coming at Kilkenny back in 2009 territory. All of these things are true. Now, is Kylie right to point out we can be beaten on a given day? Absolutely. But I like the notion that there's a softening up exercise going on from the outside, a concerted effort to soften up Limerick. I mean, that's great stuff. That's great stuff. I love it.
And do you know what, Joe? They'll be lucky to get out of Munster this year.
Yeah. So we should press on with the news round, which is, as ever, brought to you with thanks to Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave or your money back. Neon Night Edition available now. Spurs have made a move.
Yeah, they have. Sure, why not? This is going to fix everything. Tottenham have sacked interim manager Christian Stellini after what they've described as their wholly unacceptable defeat to Newcastle yesterday. They lost 6-1 at St James's Park. 5 of those Newcastle goals came inside the first 21 minutes. Stellini replaced Antonio Conte when he was sacked late last month. Ryan Mason is Tottenham's new interim head coach as they continue the hunt for a permanent replacement. And it's said this evening that their former manager Mauricio Pochettino is on the verge of being appointed new Chelsea boss.
Damon Delaney on the football show after 9. We'll talk about Spurs naturally enough. Make sure Mick talks about Villa tonight back in their box. Carl, the Blue Brummie in
I'm sick of talking about Villa. They were awful. They had their worst game under Emery. I watched it all, even though there was a huge amount of sport on. I was watching sport from 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. I went to bed and it was a terrible game. And you know what? They were 1-0 down and they've got a draw, Joe, against a tough team away from home. I don't know. I think that's the type of performance that shows progress. But
Alan we'll in Kilmallock not happy.
Oh, why not? Oh, Kilmallock, sorry. You've just explained it.
Fair is fair, lads. You've been telling us over the last few weeks nobody can touch Limerick and yet they win by 2 points. What's the problem there with what Kylie said? Look, there's no great problem. It's just funny. Generally, I suppose, Alan, managers would build a siege mentality when people are saying bad things about their team and writing a team off. And we would hear managers say, you all wrote us off and we're not happy about that. So it is quite funny to hear John Kiley say, you've all said really nice things about us. It's bullshit. And I know what you're up to. Yeah,
yeah,
so
you're up to no good.
Don't take it too seriously, Alan. We're just having a bit of fun.
I just went on to the Tottenham because I'd heard about how they sacked Stellini. Statement on the website tweeted, club statement from Daniel.
I saw this. A letter from Daniel. Like someone used to tell him,
club update from Daniel.
You're not referred to by the fans as beloved Daniel. This isn't a letter from Daniel. This is like, Dan. You're that you-know-what Levy. You're not Daniel. Awful. They really hate Daniel Levy. I think it's one of those situations. It's a bit like when we weren't thrilled with Martin O'Neill.
Yeah.
And on the outside, and I'm on the outside of Spurs fandom, I would look in and say, well, look, I mean, the stadium is a really great achievement and he's hired lots of good managers, you would think, on paper, and they've invested some money, you know, 60 million on Richarlison and some money elsewhere. It's not like he's been, you know,
absentee owner.
Yes, you know, all over the shop. And yet you talk to, you know, John Duggan popped in yesterday to studio during the game and he's like, I just want these guys, you know, I just hate them. So within Spurs, they really hate Levy, and I don't fully understand why.
Yeah.
Because I think I can see merits to the job he's done.
It's that pursuit of the average that I was talking about earlier on. It's that thing of once we set that bar at fourth, then there's nothing else to achieve. There's no real impetus behind them to go and try and win a Premier League or to try and win a Champions League or to try and win an FA Cup. They just want to have the balance sheet ticking over and looking nice year by year, keep us, one of the top level strikers in the country at their club. Once they manage to do all of that, then they've achieved their goals for the season. And that's asking for trouble in the long run, because that will just be subject to the law of diminishing returns, and then those players will go away and then they'll have a pretty rubbish squad to try and achieve 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th and downwards.
I do accept that totally, and I think Damon Delaney after 9, that's very much his sense of the situation. On the other hand, in some respects, you're going out and you're getting Conte and you're throwing him 15 million sterling a season.
Yeah,
you're not serious either about trying to do something. That's a serial winner that you're bringing in.
Yeah, for me it's, I don't know. From the outside looking in and without all the details for sure, but for me it's like, I feel like it's shortcuts a lot of the time. Like they're looking for that success. They want that big name to solve everything.
Yeah, okay.
As opposed to fixing it from the bottom up, which is what you need to do.
15 million on Conte is cheaper than spending 200 million on players, I grant you.
Would you indulge me to read the first couple of lines of Daniel Levy's statement?
The letter from Daniel?
Yeah, a club update from Daniel. Dear all, Sunday's performance against Newcastle was wholly unacceptable. It was devastating to see. We can look at many reasons why it happened, and whilst myself, the board, the coaches and the players must all take collective responsibility, ultimately the responsibility is mine. Christian will leave his current role along with his coaching staff.
I will not be leaving the club. So, Richie, James Lowe is out. It's a big blow for Leinster ahead of this game in Dublin on Saturday.
Yeah, it is. They'd hoped he'd be back, but he's definitively been ruled out of Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup semi-final with Toulouse. The winger has failed to recover in time from a calf injury sustained in their quarter-final win over Leicester. However, both Josh van der Flier and Ryan Baird remain in contention for the game at the Aviva, at least for now. Van der Flier is nursing an ankle injury, while Baird has a shoulder problem. Final decisions on both will be made later in the week. Rhys Ruddock and Ed Byrne will play no part this week. Ruddock suffered a hamstring injury in their recent win over the Emirates Lions, and Byrne sustained a tricep injury in their weekend defeat to the Vodacom Bulls. Toulouse have injury concerns of their own. Fullback Melvin Jaminet has been ruled out for 6 to 8 weeks after suffering an ankle injury in their top 14 loss to Stade Francais at the weekend. Ange Capuozzo is already out with a recurrence of the shoulder blade injury that prematurely ended his Six Nations. Meanwhile, Leinster head coach Leo Cullen believes he has the bodies to cope with Lowe's absence.
James didn't feature much for us, if you remember, during the build stages earlier on the year. So because remember he went back to New Zealand for that round 3 and 4 games. So you've seen the guys. Jimmy's been good this year. Hugo, obviously, you've just had in Jordan Larmour was unlucky to miss out probably in some of those games as well. So he obviously played the last 16 game, missed it in the quarterfinal. So the competition is good regardless there. So we're reasonably comfortable there. Guys even away, there was some guys featured okay. We're okay. Yep.
I think there's a sense that if Ireland-France was maybe the best test match many of us have seen in however long, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere or in Six Nations rugby, that this will be the parallel of that on Saturday. Everything's pointing towards this being an absolute epic. So we'll chat to Jerry and Fiona after 8 o'clock about that. Leinster beaten 62 points to 7 by the Bull. Like the most curious, odd scoreline of the season. Their first, maybe, and second team at home notwithstanding. It's just unusual to see Leinster beaten by that much. But nonetheless, they're top seeds, and we have the fixtures for the URC quarter-final.
The Aviva on Saturday week for their quarter-final in the URC against the Cell Sea Sharks. That's going to have a 5 p.m. kickoff. The same evening, Munster will be away to Glasgow Warriors at Scottstown, where kickoff will be at 25 to 8. The night before, Kingspan Stadium will host the meeting of Ulster and Connacht. Also a 7:35 start to that one.
Yeah, it's a nice lineup, actually.
Yeah. Can I just say, we talked down about Munster a lot on the show, and look, they give us plenty of reason for it over the last couple of years, but their performance on Saturday night, and actually in both games when they were kind of do or die, given, you know, they were in the same venue, however, 4 weeks ago for a disastrous Champions Cup quarter-final, they were brilliant. They were 22-3 down, for people that don't know, and came back to draw 22-all. The final whistle went with Munster on the line, over the line, and not quite getting it down for a bonus point win. It was a brilliant performance. You had like the likes of Murray, O'Mahony, even Keith Earls come off the bench. All the old timers were just stepping up. Good all round performance. Fekatoa was brilliant. Can I just say as well, Stephen Archer has played as a tight head prop 2 weeks in a row in South Africa. He's played 80 minutes both weeks at like top level rugby. That's unheard of these days, unless you're Andrew Porter.
Yeah. And
I think Sean Klein has similar numbers as well in the second row. He's been playing an immense amount of rugby there recently too. Has put in decent performances, I think, in pretty much every one of those games.
But front rower is
for a tight head to do it. Yeah.
And kudos Ben Healy. I mean,
he
should have been cast aside, really. Treacherous Ben Healy, but instead he's
come on.
I'm joking. Instead he trotted on in 53 minutes at 22-3 down.
Changed the game.
Akin to last week, played beautifully.
Meant to say him there in the list because he was. I was saying it to you earlier. Like, he was 2 weeks in a row now. Ben Healy has, absolutely put his hand up that Carberry, Crowley absolutely will hope to get involved. But I can't see how Healy isn't going to start at 10 against Glasgow.
I wonder, based on current form, might Irish rugby at large have done more to keep him? Because he's really showing that he's made the right stuff. So
do you think there might be anything to the fact that decision made, went off, pressure's off? I don't have to prove myself to them anymore, and suddenly you relax and play your best rugby. You know, that might not have happened if he didn't go.
Often see with players retiring, there's a certain I'm going to enjoy this now. So he's certainly done that really good. Keith Earls made his 200th appearance as well. That South African trip, these 2 weeks post their exit at the hands of the Sharks, looked like 10 days which would just be nail in the coffin of their mood. Instead, it's completely rejuvenated their season. So we'll chat to Jerry
7
and Fiona
points from the 2 games.
Yeah. Really, really good. Some texts in. Waterford were doing plenty of off the ball fouling as well yesterday, dragging down runners, tripping players, etc. And I'm a neutral, says Paul.
I think every team does it.
Of course they do. Yeah. Like, sorry,
it's part of the game, really, at this stage.
You know, Limerick foul. Well, yeah. You know, they're trying to win. John and Limerick, did that Waterford blank observe the persistent fouling by Waterford backs? And then he references Davy Stewart. Don't get me started about that fella hitting Hegarty. Well, yes. I mean, it was open palm, but wasn't good. I mean, nobody should be running down from their seat to touch a player who's on the pitch. Breda and Sligo. Lads, why is nobody talking about Dublin putting 430 on leash? 4 goals and 30 points, she writes in capital letters, in a game of Gaelic football. To be fair to them, they scored just 15 in the second half, so they had the good grace to ease off. But yeah,
4:30. It's a score every 2 minutes in a game of Gaelic football over the course of the whole game.
4:30. What's that in old money? 42 points.
Yeah, but it's 34 scores. You know, it's ridiculous. Really is.
Yeah.
In football, like
it was hard to know from the highlights what was going on. I mean, I have a good sense of what was going on, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard to know why it was so ridiculous.
Yeah, Laois aren't at their highest point at the moment. Let's face it. But I think any suggestion that Dublin's dominance of Leinster might be at an end or coming to an end. You see, like even Meath aren't exactly going to challenge them, are they? You know, they're out, lost to Offaly there in the Tailteann Cup. Kildare, very, very good chance of falling into the Tailteann Cup as well. They play Dublin next.
Yeah.
And, you know, like Offaly might be bright shoots, but they're nowhere near Dublin level yet, you know. So it's just another grim Leinster Championship ahead. Like, it's one of those competitions that's incredibly competitive if Dublin don't exist in it.
Yeah.
You know, Louth beating Westmeath yesterday was a great story, you know.
We don't have time to do everything tonight, so we're going to do our football chat tomorrow with Colin Boyle. One of the questions I might ask him, given the rivalry of the last decade, is whether or not he paid any heed to these Dublin trend scenes of opposition in Leinster. Like, would you watch back the Laois game for kinks or trends or patterns, or is it completely irrelevant?
What can you learn from a game like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Patterns, someone's tendency to kick here or there, but in terms of like an overall, where are Dublin?
When they're not under any pressure, are you actually learning anything from them at all? Like, you know,
pretty grim at least training on tomorrow night.
Yeah, hopefully they'll get a couple of weeks off now. I don't know when the Tailteann Cup starts, but I wouldn't be rushing back to Laois training, I have to say.
And Meath, we'll have to talk Meath tomorrow.
Absolutely. Like Meath's fall has been remarkable. You know, they won their first 2 games of the league. Richie will know more about this than I do, but you know, it seemed like a decent enough start, but I don't know, like, I mean, this was coming, I think.
It has been. Gordon Manning has a brilliant piece in the Times today. Sorry, Mick. Like, it underlines all of the issues with Meath, and they are many and manifold, and they kind of start with a lack of harnessing of potential playing talent in the county, because, like he points out, Navan O'Mahony's are reduced to, they're like, obviously Navan's the county town, O'Mahony's reduced to intermediate level. I don't think there was a single member of their team on the panel yesterday. And then you have places that have seen a massive influx in terms of population. So you're like, if you're Ashbournes, you're Dunshaughlins, you're Dunboynes, just like nowhere in terms of competing in county championship. So like, there are players in the county, where they are and how they're being trained and what level they're all at is really, really saddening to see, given the boost that they've been given in terms of numbers. They haven't harnessed that in the right way. To seek out Gordon's piece, because as I mentioned there, it wasn't just yesterday. This has been coming since deep early into the 2000s, and before that 2010 win with the Joe Sheridan goal.
Yeah, I didn't see Gordon's piece. I must check it out. Anthony Moyles was interesting on an AM this morning. He said, heard a rumour or two about happiness within the camp he doesn't love. Referenced that point about the populations in South Meath. Are they being harnessed? And he half referred to Colin O'Rourke joking about burning the Dublin jerseys. You'd have a lot of Dublin families living in Meath, and so, you know, that was such a fixation for that O'Rourke team. Like, they just were obsessed with Dublin by their own admission, and maybe that's not going to connect with the younger
Meath. They're all Dublin families, and they all have Dublin accents in around that area. Like, it's a different world. It's an absolutely different world. Like, maybe when you're up in Skryne or up beyond that kind of area, it's a little bit different, and it's a little bit more quote unquote traditional. But that world is dead, and they need to start living in the new one.
Tom in Dublin. As a neutral, very disappointed with the amount of coverage Claire Tibb got on TV last night. Sunday game spreading itself too thin. Like, are you just baiting Mick McCarthy? Like, all of his faves there. Not enough coverage of Claire. Sunday game too thin. I didn't see it. You're not getting into it.
Maybe later.
You'll say something you regret.
Oh no! Will I answer the point? No, because I'm okay saying it. It's nothing to do with.
There wasn't a question.
It's nothing to do with Clare and Limerick. I didn't think there was much analysis that taught me anything about the game, but that's fine. That's another story. The highlights are a waste of time. They just are. Like, I mean, I don't know what the solution is to that, but scores highlights, I've said this for years, do not tell the story of any Gaelic games game, especially hurling. You know, I just don't think they properly highlight what had happened. And, you know, I think anyone who watched the 70 minutes of that game and then saw, you know, the kind of I thought it was very rushed analysis last night. You know, they started with the hurling, but, you know, because they had a lot of football to get to, but they took their time especially with the Galway Roscommon game anyway. So look, it's the hardest job in the world. It's easy to criticise, and, you know, let that be said. Because who's to say any of us would do a better job? But sometimes it just can be very disappointing when you just want that extra bit that you've had from during the day, and that's and also it's lauded as that. We hear the Sunday game sets the agenda, etc., etc. And I just, so far anyway, I haven't seen it.
the idea in 2023 that you have such a blocky format, and this isn't just them, it's like this is any sporting thing, they basically show the highlights and then talk after it. Show the highlights, talk after it. That has to die at some stage, because it's just not fit for purpose in the modern era when you can watch the games in GA Go, you can watch the highlights earlier in the day. There needs to be a slightly more fluid way of doing things in terms of preparing and showing highlights and talking about them on TV.
Well, listen, it's lucky we're so great in every way.
That's it. No, 100%. But
we are out of time.
Has to talk about these things. Is what we're here for.
But we're actually out of time.
Oh no, being out of time is fine. But yeah, I think we're entitled to our opinion.
No, of course we are. Let's talk about it on a slight tangent some night.
No problem.
Okay.
So he gets ruled out of the gig earlier on in the year, and he wants to go in 2-footed now. That's Joe Molloy for you.
No, I'm still trying to keep in with them. Richie, we're out of time. Thank you very much.
Good luck with that Saturday gig.
Thank you. Michael, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's Cash Machine.
So, Cash Machine's been reloaded. The new amount you need to know is 40,482 euro and 16 cents, 16. Text play to 57557. Get your entry in by 3 o'clock tomorrow. And then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in your own cents, and the cash is yours. 40,482 euro and 16 cents. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50. You're playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions on newstalk.com.
The Newsround on Off the Ball.
With Gillette Labs. Get the ultimate shave for your money back. Neon Night Edition available now.
Dublin's electricity system needs an upgrade. The power cables are ageing and have to be replaced. That's why EirGrid, operator of the electricity grid, is powering up Dublin. And we want your input into how we do it, so that together we can future-proof our electricity system and bring more renewable energy onto the grid. Our consultation period is now underway. So find out how you can take part online or in person at airgrid.ie/Dublin.
Hey, what are you doing tomorrow morning at 10:30? Any plans?